Yeah, so we'll go through this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do the introduction. Are you good taking us through the plot?
I did the plot on the last one. Do you want to do the plot on this one?
Do you really want me to take control of the plot here?
Yeah. I'll interject.
Okay. One of those evenings. Hi everyone, welcome to Deadhouse. Today we're back and we're going to start with a slight correction. We have a new viewer. I believe it's Latest Life. If I did that wrong, there will be a correction here on the screen and you can totally let us know in the comments.
Yes.
That viewer pointed out a correction that needs to be made in this book.
Ooh.
We made a slight boo-boo when we
Okay.
were reading this one. Ahmed, when he's captured by the mummies, they hold him over the tar pit. They don't throw him in. They just hold him over it. And Gabe closes his eyes because he doesn't want to see it. And somehow he gets free. And when Gabe opens his eyes, he's running. He sees him run away through the tunnel. We both said they threw him in the tar pit.
That's what we wanted.
I was just going to say, wishful thinking on our part. Because he kind of deserved it at the end of that
He
book.
did. He had it coming.
So that changes our real death toll to, is it 1 now?
Yep. That's it.
That's it. That's kind of lame.
Yep.
But I mean, 1 real death so far. So.
We're only early in the series though, so we'll give it a little bit more time.
But we've read later ones, and there's no deaths in those.
This is true.
It'll happen again, I'm sure. Or maybe Say Cheese and Die will be the only real death.
Maybe.
Who knows? We'll find out. Today's book, though, is going to be Return of the Mummy. And stay tuned for after this video, because we're going to upload a second very short video where we take a look at the TV adaptation and let you know how the TV adaptation book was different from the original book. So if you're interested in that, it'll be a little bit of bonus content. It's going to come out the same day with this one. But we figured, you know, for the sake of time, it might run a bit long and maybe not everybody's interested, so.
So feel free to have a look at the next video if you're so inclined, but if that's not your forte, by all means, that's fine.
Skip it and join us for the next one.
Whee!
So, for Return of the Mummy, it was book number 23, published September of 1994. And today Jennifer's decided I'm going to take us through the plot. So that means be prepared for some mistakes and back and forth, because I am not as good at putting a straight line together. She usually keeps us pretty straight on the plot.
Oh
so.
no.
Yeah, let's go. We'll do it. We'll make it.
We'll bicker if needed.
That's true. We start out, yes, with Gabe on a plane to meet his Uncle Ben.
Yep.
And he's met a stewardess named Nancy, who's friendly and nice in that way that's not condescending, but doesn't treat him too much like a grown-up. It's like very age-appropriate sort of. Yeah. Anyway, it was very cute and sweet, and it was kind of nice to see. Yeah. He also had a little bit of a crush on her, I think.
No.
And then we are introduced immediately to continuity issues. First of all, he says last year. Okay, that's fine. But he says it was last summer. It was Christmas.
It was, because they went on Christmas vacation.
They did, and they also had a refrigeration meeting at about the same time, which we said was kind of weird for around Christmas, but okay.
Right. And we commented on who takes their family or kids to Egypt for Christmas vacation.
But that was super awesome.
Yeah.
And apparently anytime they have to go on extended trips out of country, no matter what he's doing during the school year, they take him with them, which is super cool.
Right.
But it wasn't last summer. It was last Christmas.
It was.
And then he also says that this is their first time digging in an unexplored pyramid, which
I thought it was an unexplored area of the pyramid.
no, it says this was their first time digging in an unexplored pyramid.
Okay.
So this might be plausible, because now that he's revisiting his Uncle Ben, and they're digging in a pyramid, the last time it was a well-known pyramid that had been uncovered, and they were like hunting through for other chambers and found a new portion of the pyramid. This one was apparently completely unexplored, so I guess they've been digging out for months from the beginning or something. So I guess that makes sense, but I mean, he was in a pyramid with a new undiscovered section of it that hadn't been explored before, so it's not that different, but he makes it seem like it's a bigger deal this time.
Yeah, and I don't think they'd be done with that unexplored area within the couple of months between Christmas and summer either. Like, people spend years looking into
uncovering.
Yeah, and this is only a couple of months, so that doesn't really
so within a few months, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months, it's like a brand new pyramid, and they're finding new parts of it, and they've got it opened, and they've been going through it. And
it's the same team though too, right? It's Uncle Ben's team. So if Uncle Ben's team is really busy on the unexplored section of the more known pyramid, then how is that team also exploring a pyramid or discovering and exploring a pyramid that has never been explored before?
Well, that's it. He's got a new partner on this one, though. It's not with the university, so maybe that makes a difference. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and they kind of got the axe on that one.
So while he's on the plane, we get some more information about his hand. Apparently it's always warm, and he says it feels a lot like a real hand. But suddenly he's noticed it's gone cold.
And they never mentioned temperature of the hand in the previous one.
Not really, no.
No. And it's always been in his pant pocket.
He said it felt warm before, but not like a real hand warm.
Yeah.
He just said warm, which we assumed meant, because he keeps it in his pocket all the time.
Yeah, you put
Which is also, when they finally get there, what Sari assumes. It's always in your pocket, of course it's warm.
Right, yeah.
But he says it feels more like an actual hand warm, and now it suddenly feels colder than usual. And I don't know that there's really anything to that, because it's a weird thing to mention. As we're going to find out later, there's absolutely no payoff for it.
No. Which is confusing.
Definitely. He arrives in Cairo again at the Cairo airport, mistakes a random taxi driver for his uncle.
That was excellent.
He thought it was his uncle dressed up and didn't realize it was somebody totally different until he hears the voice, and then he's like, oh shoot. And then he gets really embarrassed because his uncle and cousin are right over there.
Yep. I did enjoy that moment though.
Yeah. He did that thing that most of us do when you think somebody is your parent because they're dressed very similarly, and you like go to talk to them and they turn around and you're like, whoa.
You're not that person. Yeah. And he did think his uncle was playing prank on him again, because that's his uncle's way of greeting him.
Yeah, so he thought he might have been like trying to make sure he wouldn't know who he was at the airport and make him like freak out and be scared, but
yeah, not this time.
Not this time. We do get a bit of background on Sari here, which is really interesting to see, and I wish some of that for her character was developed more, because I don't feel like she was as full of a character in this book as she was in the last one. But we do find out that her mother died when she was young, when she was 5, I believe it said, and she attends a boarding school that's year-round. And she only gets to visit during major holidays or the summer with her dad. So that could be used to kind of explain her competitiveness, because, I mean, when you're away for so long, you could see her wanting to impress her father when she gets back to see him and like sort of hold his attention a bit.
Yeah, because she doesn't have it for the rest of the year.
Exactly. But they don't really go into that, and they also make her even more weirdly competitive in this book than she was in the first one, to a point where it almost seems kind of out of character. Like it's too competitive. It's not the same fun they were having back and forth before. It's a little more
pushing the envelope.
Yeah. Again, we're introduced to uniformed guards who have to let them into the pyramid. So of course, when they go there, before they unpack, they go through a guarded area, and then there's all the white tents.
Right, because they're not staying in a hotel this time.
No, they're actually staying at the dig site, which would make sense being that close to the dig, especially if it was very far out and you were about to uncover new areas.
Right.
When they show up and they've unloaded their things in the tent, and he's coming out, he notices that there's all these lights and things set up near the pyramid, and he thinks it's associated with the dig. And then from the distance, coming from the area of the men with lights and equipment, there's this shambling form getting closer and closer until it's almost right there, and he's petrified and he doesn't know what to say.
Sari is petrified at this moment too.
She is, but she won't admit it.
No.
And so Ben is facing the two of them like this, and the mummy's coming in the distance, and finally he yells and tries to warn his Uncle Ben, but the mummy grabs him, and oh, it's just his good friend who's an actor. We meet John, who is starring in an ad campaign for bandages, not Band-Aid specific, just bandages.
Yeah.
And they're taking photos and I would assume video out by the pyramids for whatever the full ad campaign is. And he'd enlisted his friend to play a practical joke on his nephew, yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Gabe feels stupid and was like, right, he's wearing a watch and it was glinting in the sun and he should have noticed these kinds of details about a mummy.
But based on his previous fright that Christmas, he just went right into, like, fright mode and not, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
And then he gets the necklace.
And then he gets the necklace. And then his Uncle Ben says, now that I've scared you and got you all warmed up, here's a gift.
Right. And this is an amber pendant with a scarab in it.
Yes. And that's really cool. I used to, you probably saw them too as a kid, the little ants preserved in amber and and we got to hold them. This was like a school trip we did. But yeah, we've seen insects preserved in amber. It's super cool. So the fact that he has this nice round polished piece of amber with the scarab in the center is like extra neat. I don't understand why Sari thinks it's gross. It's awesome.
I think that might be a girl stereotype. See, I said this and
I mean, it is because girls think bugs are gross unless you're me and you're like 6 years old and you're picking up spiders and you're saying, look, Ma, look at the spider.
I was not that girl.
I was. No, that's just spider specific though. You don't hate bugs, you just don't like spiders.
There's a couple that I'm not a fan of.
I'm not a fan of, well, I don't mind tiny ants. They're fine.
Ants are fine.
I don't like the really big ants with the wings. But I have a specific childhood incident related to that. So.
Right. I don't like spiders, and I don't like earwigs, and I don't like wasps or hornets.
Oh, nobody likes wasps or hornets. They're not friendly.
Bumblebees I'm fine with, but I'll keep my distance. But I like
bumblebees pollinate. They serve a purpose.
Yeah, but I'm allergic to pollen.
Yes, but we need it for the survival of the world.
Yes, and that's why I leave them be. I don't like...
No, obviously.
Yeah, I don't try to swat at those, but...
Wasps and hornets will chase you too. Bees won't chase you.
No, not unless they're ticked off.
Not bumblebees anyway, not your average bumble.
Anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, now that we've had our insect sidetrack.
But I definitely think that was a stereotype on her behalf. That was like a, ooh, girls don't like bugs.
Yeah, I would agree that you're right there. I don't like it. But I agree that you're probably right on that. And then we get yet another jump scare. He falls for Sari going, wait, did that just move?
Oh my god.
Which is like the oldest trick in the book. Come on.
Completely equivalent to what's on your shirt.
Right? What's that down there on your shirt? Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think my eyes rolled hard enough when I read that.
Okay, so apparently she's like, I saw the scarab move. Oh my gosh, did it move? And he's like, what? Where? And he's looking around. And I literally wrote down in my notes in exaggerated letters, please. And then it cuts to night.
Yes.
We're in a tent. It's very ominous. There's like kind of a breeze. You can sort of hear the wind moving the sand outside. We're setting the scene for the fact that he thinks he can feel the scarab moving inside the amber.
Sorry, got so in his head.
Yeah, so now he thinks he feels it at night in his sleep. So he wakes up, he checks it, everything's fine. Nothing really happens with his pendant at all, even though it does that weird foreshadowing thing.
Yeah.
Because right after he thinks he feels it move, he says, "Little did I know how important this pendant would be to me," and blah, blah, blah. And
Dun, dun, dun.
it does that thing that I hate that gives away too much of the plot. Except in this case, it doesn't give away any of the plot. Not really, because it really doesn't have anything to do with his necklace.
No, not his necklace, but it's a little bit of foreshadowing, like you said.
It is. And I think it would have been better left if they hadn't done the little did I know thing. That's just a nitpicky thing that I don't like. But in this case, like the part about he thinks he can feel it moving, and part of it is because Asari played the joke earlier, it kind of works to foreshadow a future event. So I think it would have been nicer.
Just to kind of leave it.
Yeah. And next we get Frosted Flakes. It's breakfast time, and he's having cereal, and he makes this weird reference at the beginning of the book. She'd turn eating breakfast into a competition, and then suddenly eating breakfast the quickest is a competition. I don't understand.
No.
He says there's no Frosted Flakes left. Uppercased, so we know it's the brand. So he says he has to have Raisin Bran, which is lowercased, which I don't get because that is a brand.
It is.
But it's lowercased, so it's not meant to be the brand. It's just meant to be a bran cereal with raisins in it. So I don't know why we've done a brand with one and not the other. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, because if you look up Raisin Bran, even uncapitalized, you come up with that exact cereal.
You do.
Yeah.
But usually in writing, you uppercase to signify it's the brand, and you lowercase to say it's generic. So I don't know if that was just a mistake or...
It led to a competition, whatever it was.
It's true.
Yeah.
Over breakfast, Uncle Ben is explaining more about the pyramid they found. Apparently it belongs to King Tutankhamun's cousin, Prince Koru, I think it's pronounced.
Yeah.
If anybody knows like how you're supposed to say that, please tell us so we know. Finally we get to talking about what happened last time, or well, last summer as they're calling it in this book. So they talk a little bit about last summer, but Uncle Ben seems to have forgotten that mummies walked and came alive. Like he's still treating everything like it's superstition, and like none of this stuff can be real.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
And they get ready to go into the pyramid. He loads them up with hard hats that have lights on them, which is something they should have had the first time. Any cave diver, miner, anything that goes underground has that. So
They didn't get the beeper this time, though.
no, but I mean, they should have had hard hats and lights last time.
Absolutely.
And you can signal and see each other with the lights
Yeah.
for the most part, as long as you don't get too lost. But no echo beeping system this time. They're about to go in, they're being lowered down by a rope, when all of a sudden someone bursts in and yells at them not to go in.
Yeah. Enter the next key character.
Yes. We get introduced to Neela, a reporter from the Cairo Sun. Neela Ahmed is dressed in a white business suit. White because of the hot.
Yeah. Very
Sun.
common, I guess, for that area.
But it's described as like a very nice cut business suit. And she comes in very official and says, "Oh, I've already been speaking with your partner, and he's agreed to allow press coverage, and we've got the scoop on it because we heard about this first." And she keeps calling him doctor.
Yeah.
She doesn't just call him, you know, Ben or Mr. Assad. She calls him Dr. Assad, which is his proper title.
It is.
But I think that sort of like does some sway to, you know, impress him a little.
The ego, right?
Also, she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. So
Which-
that doesn't hurt either.
They comment on a lot.
Gabe does in particular, but I think that's because, again, Gabe has a little boy's crush. Just a little bit. Just a little. She says right away after Ben reluctantly agrees to let her down into the, he's like, here, take a hat, be careful, don't take any pictures.
Yep.
And she's like, oh, we're twins. And Gabe's looking around and she's like, I've got an amber pendant too. Only hers was empty. And Sari comments, oh, well, yours is prettier because it's empty. And I'm like, no, the bug is the cool part. That's the point.
I think Sarah needs a lesson on why the bug inside is cool.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Because it's an ancient bug preserved. It's a real mummy.
Yeah, and it could not only hold its own DNA, it could hold the DNA of other
whatever
plants.
It had before it.
Yeah.
So cool, right?
Yeah, she definitely needs a lesson on, why this is so intriguing.
It was here where I posited a theory, which was not the case. So I'll talk about that one at the end after we do plot.
Alright.
And somehow immediately Gabe is lost. Again.
Yeah.
Right away. They're talking, they go ahead of him. It's not because he stops to tie his shoe this time. There's no more mention of the crazy shoelace.
I noted that
last
too. Right? He's always tripping over his own shoelace.
And having to stop to tie it up.
And that didn't happen once in this book.
No.
Not once.
But he still somehow lags behind them and gets separated.
He was looking at a picture.
Oh, right. He was looking at the Bart Simpson somebody had drawn in the dust on the wall.
And he didn't recognize who it was. Sorry, had to tell him. So he didn't get completely lost at that
So
point.
it was a pretty crude looking Bart Simpson in that case.
So when he was looking back at it, Sari went on and kind of left him behind. And then he didn't know which way.
I guess.
As the story goes.
Right. He tries to stay put.
Tries. Mm-hmm.
But he goes, well, I'm going to just go a little further, see if I can see them in a straight line. So he goes ahead until it curves off into two paths.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not sure which path to take.
Mm-hmm.
And he figures, I'm going to stay put until they find me. And he leans against a wall, or what he thinks is a wall. So he crumbles through this wall and goes straight down and lands flat on his back.
Super hard.
And of course the light is out on his helmet.
Mm.
Which, awful terrible safety helmet. It takes one knock from a drop and the light's gone out.
I guess it depends on the angle that he was hit. Or how he hit. Just to loosen the bulb even. It might not even have damaged any of the wiring. It could have just loosened the bulb a little bit. Because it does come back on.
It does, but it's out for quite a while. It takes
is.
another hit for it to come back on, actually. So he's fallen through the wall.
Yeah.
He's on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He feels itchy.
Yeah. On his arms and his legs.
But he's not sure what's happening. He just feels itchy and gross. He wants to get out. He goes to sit up, but it's a really low ceiling. So wherever he's fallen, there's a slanted
edge or something there.
And he tries to sit forward, and he hits his hard hat off of it, and that makes the light come back on. So he discovers he's completely covered in spiders. Your
White
favorite.
spiders. I would die
White
twice.
Bulbous, as they describe them, spiders. So I'm picturing those ones that are almost clear, the really big round backs.
I'm not sure if I would vocally announce exactly where I was to the point where it would echo off of every surface in the pyramid, or if I would just pass right out and die, because I would not be able to handle that. Not at all.
Yeah.
You're smiling because you'd be fine. You'd be, okay,
Well,
let's handle the situation. And I'd be going nuts.
I'm not terrified of spiders, is the thing. I have a healthy caution about them. I understand that there's ones that are poisonous as opposed to other ones. And there's some that'll bite and some that won't. So, I wouldn't be happy to find myself in a strange place trapped, covered in spiders that I didn't know what they were. but I probably wouldn't freak out, I think, as much as you.
I would be doing a version of a caffeinated rain dance if I didn't pass out right away, and stomping on as many of these little white things as I possibly could while screaming, once again, if I didn't pass out immediately. Like,
So
I
he
can't handle.
backs away from this ledge and stands up and is like freaking out trying to get these spiders off, which
Yep.
is what you said you were
Oh,
doing.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, oh my god, there's something moving behind him. Oh my god, he thinks it's a snake.
Oh, my God. Worst case scenario.
It's not a snake. It's a jump scare.
Yeah.
Next chapter, we find out, oh hey, it's a rope.
When I read this part, I'm like, okay, so he's freaking out because of spiders. Got that. Now it's a snake. Of course it's a snake.
Why does it always have to be snakes? Little Indiana Jones in there.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, he's just freaked out, so his mind automatically jumps to, oh my god, this thing touching me now is a snake.
Yeah.
But it's actually a rope. So he realizes that, climbs up, finishes like dusting himself off and just stamping the heck out of these spiders. And tells his Uncle Ben, you know, be careful, there's a spider pit down there.
Yeah. Trust me, there is a lot of spiders. And I'm surprised he just dusted himself off, because he was saying that the spiders were like in on his legs and his arms. Like, I'm surprised that he just didn't like strip.
Yeah.
Shake everything out and get back dressed.
He starts to notice his summoner. And he thinks he can feel it moving. But now this might just be an after effect of the spiders crawling all over him.
Yeah.
So he tries to check on it, and it's like mysteriously on the ground.
Well...
Is that right?
No,
Or am I remembering that wrong?
I think it was in his pocket still, but he checked on it because he wanted to make sure that it wasn't damaged, because that's where he landed.
Yes, because that's how he landed, but it wasn't in his pocket.
It was that
lost
time.
it.
Not yet, because he thought he'd seen the fingers move. So when he checked to see if the summoner was broken, that's when he's seen the fingers slightly move.
Oh, okay. Yes, look, I have it here. The hand moved.
Duh.
You are correct. See, this is why you take us through the plots. You're so much more
Well, you
organized
read
than
the
me.
other book too, so
I
it might
did,
be...
and I'm totally getting the two crossed over. I'm going to try not to keep remembering things from the other one and follow my notes more strictly. So he does. He checks on it because he thinks it's broken.
Yep.
He sees it move. Or he thinks he does, but he doesn't want to say anything out loud because that would be weird.
And it could be the fall that has him kind of concussed a little bit. It could have been the extreme fright from all those spiders, because that could play with your mind.
Yeah, but either way, he's not sure about the hand moving, so he keeps it to himself.
Yeah.
That being said, Neela knows all about summoners. How is that?
Yeah, there's a little...
I mean, this weird thing that nobody had heard of, or wasn't even really a term, that this strange child told him about in America when he first picked it up.
And she called it by name, too.
Yeah, she's like, oh, the summoner. And it's like, what?
And how do you know?
And then Ben and Sari both go on, oh yeah, his good luck charm. Oh, that he always keeps around, and
Playing it down.
yeah, about the powers. And I kind of understand that they wouldn't want somebody new to realize there were actual powers to it. But they really play it off like they really don't believe that the hand has any power. Which is kind of annoying because we just had Mummy's move last Christmas.
Yeah, and they seen
right.
it. They witnessed it. Right? They witnessed it.
They did. They know this can happen. The dead can rise. Spirits can be summoned. But sure, let's make a lot of jokes about it. Because I'm pretty sure Sari keeps razzing him about his summoner as if she doesn't believe it does anything.
Right, yeah. But she was there. She's seen it.
Then we have a jump cut to 2 days later.
Yep. Nothing happened for 2 days that was worth writing about.
Just digging.
Yeah.
They finally reached the main doorway of the burial chamber.
I love the way that this was described.
I know, this is amazing. Because this feels like you're on the dig with them.
Yeah.
They describe how long it's taken. They talk about how the workers are sort of like up in arms to like finally finish it and get it done, and they're so close. So they go down into the pyramid again thinking you know, this is it. This is going to be the day that they get through the burial chamber.
Yeah.
And while we're there, there's a weather change. It goes from being sunny and wonderful and bright to a gray day with heavy clouds, very ominous. And this I wrote down, it's on page 49 because this was an awesome line, I thought. The pyramid rose up darkly to meet the clouds. Like very much as if it was like summoning clouds to swirl around it to make a storm.
Something bad is happening.
Yeah, it was a neat weather thing.
Yeah. I like that.
So they go down. It takes longer than they think. They see the doors. The workers are still working on it. And it takes several more hours before they can clear enough stuff away to properly open the door.
But the door is even described as being made of mahogany.
Yeah, so again, as we learned the last time, wood is actually used in the pyramids. A lot of it was mahogany. It was shipped in, you know what I mean, brought in by slaves from other places.
Yeah.
And wood, rather than rot out, petrifies when it's left that long.
Yeah.
So it would still be stable, but possibly fragile.
Right, so it probably petrifies because of the super dry climate, and if it was damp at all, it would have rotted.
So technically the wood is mummified itself in a way, which is kind of neat.
Really cool, and it's covered in hieroglyphics.
They're everywhere. They're across the top, above the door to the chamber. They're all over the door itself.
Yep.
And in the center is this great big lion's head seal, and it's golden. So it stands out from everything else. And now that there's lights on it and workers on it, it almost seems like it glows, and they describe it as that. And they say the more they look at it, the brighter and brighter it seems like it's getting.
And it's snarling.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
it's
really cool.
Really neat. The description of it is just nice because it's filled with that anticipation of staring at an object in a dim light, and it's the only bright source sort of thing, and like you're anticipating being able to take the seal off.
Yeah, yeah.
So the workers finally get down far enough to free enough around the doors that they're like, okay, we can open this now. So Ben goes up onto a stepladder and with his tools to like very carefully remove the seal.
Yep.
When he hears somebody yell out. Once again, we're stopped. A voice booms over everybody, and it just says, "Let me rest in peace."
Very ominous.
Yeah, very freaky. You don't even see who it is. You just hear the voice over everything, just like really projected.
And it probably has to do with the room that they're in too, like the way
it echoes. Yeah, exactly. And as the person gets closer and they're saying it again, "Let me rest in peace," it's his partner, Dr. Omar Fielding.
Yep.
He's his new partner on this dig, and he doesn't seem to want him to open the chamber. Ben has his own thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Ben doesn't 100% trust his partner. It's because he doesn't think he's in it for scientific reasons, the same way that he is. He thinks he's in it for the glory, and if he doesn't think there's really going to be anything there, or if he doesn't think he's going to be the one to find it, he'll delay Ben so that he can do it himself later and sort of get the glory, and that's why he doesn't really trust him that much.
Yeah, and he kind of blames Omar for believing in superstitions and curses, and Ben's like more taking a scientific
approach.
Yeah.
And he's like, superstitions are superstitions.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to have things written over a burial chamber about not disturbing the person.
Yeah.
They don't want people to root up their dead because it's disrespectful.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, especially at the time when grave robbing was a huge thing.
Oh my God, yes.
So, I mean, you know, different time, different context. So, I understand it, but at the same time, Ben's seen this happen. So,
he should have a very good, solid reason.
I think he would at least have some reserve about it, even if he didn't outwardly show it, because he's still very much a man of science first.
Yeah, but he completely brushed off the Christmas Adventures.
Oh, completely.
And he should have some concerns with a curse or a warning or a superstition. Just a little tiny bit.
Just a little.
Mhm.
Even if for no other reason, like not the magical one, just the fact that it was a human upholding a curse the last time. So, I mean, sabotage, something, anything. There should be some sort of reservation.
Yep.
This is where they go into the warning. So apparently earlier on they found hieroglyphics leading towards the chamber that said, if you disturb the tomb and say a particular incantation 5 times in a row, the prince will rise and take revenge on those who disturb him.
I like this because usually it's the rule of 3.
Yeah, but this time you have to say it 5 times.
Yeah, like it completely just disregarded that.
1, 2, 5, 3, sir, 3.
Right? Because the rule of 3 is very common in folklore and tales like this. And
Yeah, and that's why there's a Monty Python sketch about it, because it's always 3.
Yeah.
3 shall be the number of counting, and the number of counting is 3. But no, it's 5.
Yeah. I'm like, way to overdo it, guys. It's like, okay, you can say it 3 times, but you don't really mean it unless you say it 5.
Yeah. You gotta be positive.
Yeah.
So he finally goes up and removes the seal,
Yeah.
and it takes him a while and nudging. And they sort of emphasize like how slow this process is and how careful he is about it. So when the seal is loose enough, he actually like wiggles it down, hands it to a waiting assistant who instantly takes it and puts it, because they have these crates nearby lined with straw.
Yeah.
And like lays it gently in a crate so they can like preserve it as an artifact.
Yeah, they don't want to destroy it for the
Exactly.
sake of getting in the room.
But I like that nice little touch, because that adds like an element of realism, because usually when you see these things they like chisel stuff off and they let it fall and it's like, but
cloud of
you're
dust.
right? But you're an archaeologist, right? But no, they actually do like take the time and care, and it's nice to see.
Yeah.
So they gently try to open the door and it doesn't budge.
No.
So they really have to like push it and work it, and it takes a few of them pushing forward with their shoulders, but slowly, because they don't want to break anything.
Right, and they're only moving it a couple inches at a time.
Yes. And they want to get it open enough that they can at least see inside and see what it's going to be. So enough to at least squeeze a person through.
Yeah.
So they get it open enough to squeeze somebody in, and Ben looks through with his headlamp light, only to find out
The room's empty.
the room's empty.
Womp womp.
It was a false chamber.
Which I really think is cool, because the way that we're told, or that we read about how Egyptians planted these traps and these tricks to protect their dead, like this is just that.
Yeah, it's just a giant, like really big, empty room.
And they're hoping if somebody finally gets into that room and looks around, there's nothing there, they're not going to look close enough to see the second seal all the way in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
They're
I love
hoping
it.
that they're going to think that, oh, this tomb has clearly already been raided, or I'm lost.
Time to move on.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Right, because you get to this giant chamber that had all this ceremony and like gold lion head on the door. So they go to the back, and there's another lion head. It's not as bright and golden, but it is still gold, because that's how they see it. As they're looking around this giant empty space, some light glints off the gold, and so they see something in a back corner.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's another lion's head seal. So now they're really excited, because this is going to be pay dirt now. This is going to be the real chamber. They go up to the door, they do the same thing again, they chisel it away, save it, force the door open. This door is stone instead of mahogany, I think. Granite, and it takes a little longer to push.
It did take longer. I didn't know what it was made out of, though.
Yeah, I think it's because the second one is granite to match the rest of the wall.
All right, so it
it looks more hidden. And they push it all the way, and Uncle Ben goes in, because there's only enough room to like squeeze a person at a time.
Yeah.
And there's silence, and they're waiting to hear something. And Ben comes out and he thinks, oh no, this is it. He's got bad news.
Yeah.
But he's just pulling a practical joke.
Classic.
The tomb is full.
This was exciting. I love this part.
There
I like a lot of parts
is-
of this.
Yeah, there was so much in the room that none of them can take it all in.
No.
There's just stuff piled up on top of stuff everywhere. There's chests.
There's couches.
There's jars of organs.
And throne.
But like the vases they're in, the jars they're in, are described as being like super ornate and beautiful, and it's probably because of how it's been stacked on top of each other more than was in Tutankhamun's tomb. Like more than they could have ever dreamed would still be around inside a tomb.
This kind of brought me to the Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser when they align the mirrors with the lights and the whole room lights up and it's just like gold and treasure. And, like that's the image that I got with this scene.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Except more antique.
And no mirrors.
Yeah. And as they're looking around, they spot this little sarcophagus to one side at the back of the room. And it's like kind of small.
Yep.
There is a crack in it. So he's kind of concerned that the mummy is going to be very fragile if there's even still one in there.
Right, if.
He's like moving the lid very carefully because it's in pieces.
And heavy.
And yes, but also mostly because it's been cracked. And there it is. It's the mummy and it's perfectly preserved.
Yeah. Completely intact.
There's been a little bit of damage around the upper part, around the face, probably where the crack was. Some of the bandages have peeled away a little bit and you can sort of see the smoothness of the skull because he describes how you can like see that part of him. And it's all like covered in tar and it sounds amazing is what it sounds like to me.
It does. Like a big first discovery. Like your name's going to be
Yeah.
everywhere.
And he says, you know, like, don't touch it because it's super fragile.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to risk putting the lid back over it. So he leaves it there as it is. And he's going to make sure the team, you know, comes and takes care of it later on.
Insert jump scare.
I know, I have that too. I was like, oh, here's our next jump scare. Omar comes back.
With some company.
Yeah. He shows up with some guards.
4. Yeah.
They're there to guard all the treasure, and he's suddenly changed his tune now that he knows there's like something to it. I believe he might, like it's hard to tell if he brought the guards actually for protection, and it just so happened they had gotten in by the time he showed up with the guards, or if he had brought them for intimidation purposes to prevent them from going in, but by the time he got there they were already in.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I was a little bit confused by this.
Yeah, and I think that's meant to be ambiguous on purpose because you're meant to question Omar. Like, they really want you to question this guy's motivations and whether or not he's trustworthy.
Because that plays in later too.
It does. Not in a big way. It's a fake out. But
it is, but it plays into leading up to the fake out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, Omar is so excited about the discovery, and they're both going to be so famous from this huge discovery, and he's beside himself. And Gabe and Sari feel very off-put by the sudden presence of guards, and the guards are saying like, no, move away, don't touch things. But the reason they're saying that is because, like as Omar said, they're there to actually guard stuff to make sure nothing's nicked or stolen now that they're in the chamber. They're super happy, they're excited. He's let her take some of her pictures because she's been taking pictures as they've been removing the seal. But he hasn't let her take pictures inside the chamber.
No.
And I mean, no good archaeologist would.
No.
You would degrade things with flash.
Yep.
They come back, she's super happy she's got her story. They're sitting around the fire that night after having supper. And they're discussing how important and exciting this find is and more details of the find. And of course, Sari and Gabe are kind of pushing Uncle Ben about the superstitions around it. And as they do, so does Neela actually.
Yeah, but Neela slips.
Yeah, Neela knows quite a bit, and he's like, why? You know a lot of it. And she's like, oh, well, it's been, you know, I've been researching and I've been looking into pyramids and, you know, but like you can believe it. And she's, they're all sort of nudging him to find out what the words were to the incantation. So finally he gives in and he says...
Well, Neela asked what the 6 words were.
Yes, specifically the 6 words.
And that sent me back into the earlier chapters where they said you had to say the verse 5 times, because I was like, they didn't say how many words it was. They didn't say anything about...
No, just that it was a chant that had to be said 5 times.
Yeah, so when she said 6 words, I'm like, oh...
That was awful exact.
Yeah.
Now, here's a thing where, as seasoned readers of these sort of things, I believe, were both very suspicious of Neela from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we're not at all suspicious of Omar because they were trying to make you suspicious of Omar.
He's the fake out. She's coming in and wooing.
But had you
Ben.
been reading this for the first time as a child and you weren't used to the tropes and story setups and different things like that, you would not see that coming necessarily.
Right, but she was overly aggressive with petting Ben's ego, with trying to be on his good side, with getting into where she wanted to be.
With laughing at all the right jokes and clinging onto his arm. And
alternative motive written all over it.
100%. So Ben sees through it. Of course, the kids don't know that yet.
No.
And Gabe is so taken with her himself. He thinks baby Ben's been taken with her too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Sari starts to wonder the same thing.
Yeah.
He says the words by the fire, and then he says, I need to make an important phone call about our discoveries, and I'll be back.
Yeah, when he says the words by the fire, I have a note here saying, don't.
Yeah. He was pushed so hard, though, by both his daughter and nephew, as well as by Neela, that he sort of gives in and says the chant. But I guess it's to not seem suspicious, because all Ben is onto this woman's tricks.
Oh, yes. But where that wasn't confirmed, this part in the book, I'm like, you're telling 2 kids who couldn't stay by your side in the first one the chant that they can't say 5 times.
Have an actual magic object in their possession.
Yeah. So I wrote dumb.
Yeah.
And then I wrote it again in another scene coming up. That's very close.
Yes.
So I'll let you take over again.
But yes, it was very dull.
Yeah.
But he does, for the sake of plot.
Throwing them off from him catching up.
He goes to make his calls about the important discoveries. While he's gone, it's starting to get late. Neela retires to her tent. Gabe and Sari go back to their tent to wait for Ben. That's when Omar bursts in, jump scare. Somebody's coming towards the tent. He's got a bald head. It's round and shiny and could be the mummy like they saw in the pyramid. That was a weird description.
Yeah. But also, Gabe is taunting Sari in the tent, too.
Oh, do they taunt before he bursts in?
They taunt before, because they lead up to Omar jumping in and being...
This is why you're in charge of the plots.
No, I just have dumb written down there, too. I'm like, oh my god. You know you have a summoner, you know what it did last Christmas, and now you're doing this thing that your uncle said not to do, because you will raise the dead. And let's go do that.
Yeah, let's definitely do that. To prove you're not a chicken.
Yeah.
And to compete with Sari.
Yeah.
And to compete with her, again, this is where the competitiveness is weird in this one, because he just does it to do it, and he's competing with himself, because he says it 4 times. Sees how terrified she's getting, is absolutely terrified himself, calls himself a chicken in his own head. Nobody else has called him that. He's terrified someone's going to. But nobody else has called him that. He calls himself a chicken for not going through with it, and then says it the 5th time.
Yeah. And as dumb as this scene is, as an adult looking in, it sums up kids.
I mean, still have him do that to show he's not scared, but maybe have more of their playful banter where they're egging each other on, like was in the first book, because they were always playfully pushing and competing.
And they weren't doing that this time, because Sari was scared.
It was just his idea to try to one-up her and make her afraid, the way he's been afraid and embarrassed a few times already. And it it didn't play as nicely. It just seemed like a weird competitive thing. And at that moment, he's kind of just competitive with himself because he, like I said, he calls himself a chicken in his own head.
But I still think that's like a kid thing. It's like he's having a competition with Sari on the outside, and he's having his own internal competition as well to push himself to do something that he really doesn't feel that comfortable doing.
Especially since he's raised the dead before, so he knows it's possible.
No big deal. But yeah, that's when Omar bursts in and then runs off to find Ben.
Yeah, they tell him that Ben's at the communications tent making a call. Yeah. So he runs over to talk to him, and they go, that's weird, he seemed in an awful big rush. He was kind of curt. He didn't really stop to talk to us. Sari's like, Dad doesn't trust him. I don't think I'm going to trust him. Let's go follow him and see what happens.
Yeah.
So they follow from the distance in the dark. They stay a little ways back so they can see what's happening at the communications tent. They see that Ben has just finished up his call. They see Omar and him having what looks like a heated discussion.
Yep.
And then they both walk out carrying flashlights towards the pyramid.
Where are they going?
Now, why they don't wear the hard hats with the lights again, I don't know. But they're carrying flashlights this time, so I suppose it's fine.
Sure.
They go down to the pyramid, and this whole time, Gabe and Sari are following from the distance.
Right.
And they're kind of trying to crouch, and she's like, oh my gosh, if they turn around, they're going to see us because there's nowhere to hide in open desert. I like that she points out this very obvious thing as they're like creeping around behind them, because it's true.
Everybody pretend they're a tree.
Right?
Not the desert, my dear.
So I'm glad she points out how ridiculous that is.
Yeah.
But they're so involved in their discussion, they don't turn around.
No.
And they think it's imperative they go right through to the pyramid. Now, rather than go inside and get lost, Gabe makes a good suggestion and says, well, stay here, we'll wait for them to come out. Because he's like, if they come out, then everything's fine. If they don't, then we'll get supplies and go look for them.
Right. And Gabe does go off and get a flashlight and tell Sari to stay here and watch the pyramid exit to see if they do come out.
Because it's been taking a really long time now, and they're starting to get concerned, and they're wondering, well, what if they're lost down there? What if something's happened and they're hurt? So he does go back, like you said, and get the flashlight.
Right.
They go in looking for Uncle Ben. So at this point, they know Dr. Fielding isn't there, because while Gabe is getting the flashlight, Dr. Omar Fielding runs out of the pyramid, and Sari gets in front of him and is like, wait, where's Dad? Why isn't he with you?
And he's just completely out of it, concerned with other things.
Yes, and he just keeps moving forward, and she's like, no, wait, stop, listen to me, and he won't stop.
No.
And he just blows her off and keeps, like, almost at a run, like, in this straightforward way, and he's limping, and they equate his movement to, like, a mummy shuffle sort of thing, except really fast. So think like a fast zombie.
Yeah. Yep.
Towards the tents.
So this motivates them actually to go inside looking for Uncle Ben.
Yes, this is what motivates them to go inside and maybe get lost in the pyramid. They get into the chamber. They start looking around. They see all the treasures. Of course, they're looking around everywhere. They don't see him. They're still calling out. And then Gabe remembers something. And he says, hey, the mummy's sarcophagus is closed again. He's like, didn't Uncle Ben leave that open?
Right.
And then Sari says, yes. And she specifically remembered him telling them to leave it open so that they could gather the mummy as soon as possible so it wouldn't be, damaged or hurt. Like, that's really weird then, like, now the cover is closed. They wouldn't have a reason to move it again because it was fragile, it was cracked.
Yeah.
So they go over and check it, and the two of them together, it takes some doing, but they move it, and poor Uncle Ben is out cold.
Solid.
This is his usual position in some pyramids, concussed and knocked out.
Poor Ben, he's always like the first target to go down.
He is, but then again, he's the big adult, so.
Yeah. The protector signifier in the novels, and he's usually the first to go, so the kids are like, okay, so now we need to do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As they're trying to figure out how to get Ben back out of the pyramid, they are interrupted.
Well, they notice that Ben's in the casket himself.
So where's the mummy?
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's Neela. Yeah, so the mummy is already alive.
Yeah.
And they don't see it yet.
No, they can hear it.
They just see Neela. And Neela starts to explain that she's related to him.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Get them now, my brother."
Yep.
And that's when they start to hear the scrape, scrape. And they see this mummy ambling out from behind some treasure. Apparently saying the chant wasn't enough. You also needed a magical emblem that could raise the dead.
Yeah. So Gabe was off the hook because he didn't have the summoner with him or in his pocket when he chanted.
Right. But he thinks it was his chant that brought it to light.
He does.
But she was like, no, you need the chant and the summoner.
Yeah. And they didn't go to sleep, so I don't know when Neela actually pulled that from.
At the fire.
Yeah.
It had to be at the fire.
Had to be.
Because that I wondered. Because he went to go to his pocket for it and it wasn't there. So that's how he realized she was holding his summoner.
Mm-hmm.
Not just another one.
Yeah.
She's got the summoner and she's saying, we'll rule together like we used to over Egypt. You get this idea that she is older than her brother, and of course the succession would have passed to the next male heir. But you kind of get the feeling that maybe she sort of dictated to him how to rule. From the way she's, and I know he's a mummy, but something about the way she's dictating to him now about what they're going to do and about how they're going to regain rule and rule together like they used to, that she had plans for sure. And that at one point she probably also, because she said they ruled together, so at one point she probably also had more power than she probably should have had. She has been keeping herself alive for 4,000 years because they mention a superstition about the royals and scarabs. And the whole deal is a bite from a scarab can kill you, but a scarab to carry is also super good luck and is believed to give immortality. She has taken the form of a scarab since she was a royal. Not sure how this is possible. Magic. Doesn't explain. And has been crawling inside the pendant at night to sleep.
To rejuvenate herself for the next day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is how she's been staying alive for 4,000 years, because she's been preserving herself in amber. The mummy goes for Neela.
Yeah.
And not for them. And she is horrified that her brother is coming after her. But he's coming after her because she's the one who's disturbed his sleep.
Yeah.
And the warning says, "Let me rest in peace." And he says that to her as he tries to strangle her. Now, Gabe and Sari need to get out. They know they need to get out.
Yeah.
They also don't want to see somebody die.
No.
So Gabe launches himself on top of the mummy to try to get him off of Neela.
Yep.
And as he's doing that, of course, like I said, the necklace gets pulled from around her neck and lands to the ground and gets shattered in the kerfuffle.
Yep.
And that's when she's like, "No, my home," and she gives her plot exposition before turning into a beetle and scuttling away.
Yeah.
Now that Neela's gone, and the summoner is there, obviously, because that got dropped behind along with all of her clothes and everything else.
Yeah.
So they go to get Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben has woken up and woke up just in time to see Neela turn into a beetle. And right after she turns into a beetle and runs off, Dr. Fielding shows up with police.
Yeah.
Now, why he didn't leave the police there all night and let them leave, I don't know. But he goes back to the tent for the night, gets them, and they help them out. They stay to sort of, the rest of them leave. The police sort of stay for a second to try to find Neela, and they can't find her.
No.
Everybody comes out of the pyramid. Everything instantly goes back to normal. Surprise, surprise, Dr. Fielding was trustworthy the whole time.
He was just suspicious of Neela.
Yes. So both he and Ben actually were suspicious of her.
Yeah.
Which was funny. That was what he went to the tent to talk to him about for the heated discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a really nice, like, touch, because they did it in such a way that you couldn't tell if they were arguing or not.
Right.
But what they were doing was trying to make sure that Neela wasn't taking anything from the tomb.
Right. And Ben actually called this Caro's son.
Yes, to see if they had a reporter, and they didn't. They had no idea about the dig or that anyone was there to cover it.
Yep.
There was no such employee.
No. Which I think a background check probably should have been done before they let her in, and they kind of approved the media connection.
But it sounded so plausible, and she
did.
looked so businesslike.
She looked the part.
There wasn't really a need to question her until she said that thing about the 6 words.
Yeah.
And that was what tipped Ben off.
Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Fielding was so in shock from the events, knowing that Ben was knocked out, that he doesn't know what to say to a little girl whose father is trapped unconscious in a pyramid. So he just keeps going to try to get help and kind of blows her off, hoping she'll ignore it. Like, I think you would want to say, oh, well, don't panic, but, you know, your father's still down there, and we need to get some extra people down there with him. He's, you know, it's not a big deal, he's fine, but he's a little stuck right now.
Yeah.
We're going to go back to the communications tent and get the nice police officers.
I guess it was the shock of seeing his partner being knocked out by this woman raising the dead.
But, I mean, it was irresponsible.
It was, yeah.
It was very irresponsible. You'd say something to the child.
Back to your tent now, do not come out. Anything.
Anything. Yeah. So now that everything's fine and Ben's recovered, they're happy again. They're in the tent. They're getting ready to go to bed. It's been a long night and next day.
Yes.
So now that they're getting ready, Sari is back to being playful and teasing. And of course, Gabe can't stop bragging this whole day, right?
Yeah.
This whole next day, he can't stop bragging that he was the one that actually saved the day.
He did it. He's the hero.
Yeah, he smashed the necklace, which was completely by mistake.
Accident at
But
most.
he smashed the necklace and he saved them all, and isn't he the great hero?
Right.
And she's just sick of hearing it. So she says, I bet you Neil is waiting for you in your bed. Because, like, the end of the night, of course you're going to say that to tease. You know, you're going to get bitten by the scare of the night. Anyway, he's like, yeah, whatever.
Sure.
And they put on their pajamas, they go to bed, and he's so excited and happy. And just after he's turned out the lights and everything, he's pulled up the covers, he feels a bite. Ouch. And that's how the book ends. I mean, they also talk about how many flies and other insects there are. So, probably not the scarab bite.
Probably not.
But it's your typical cliffhanger ending to make you think it's the poisonous scarab bite.
Yeah. And it could have been the spiders, it could be the scorpions from the previous book. But they don't go down any of those roads.
No. They just leave it. And you know what? That's kind of a neat cliffhanger ending, actually.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's left up to you to decide whether you think it's actually Neela come back or if it's just a random, like, bug bite because they're in the desert.
Right.
So that was it. That was our book. What did you think?
I really liked it.
I did too.
Yeah.
I liked it as much as the other one, actually.
Yes, yeah.
There weren't too many plot holes and inconsistencies. I mean, there were some.
Yeah.
Not as bad as other sequel books.
Right.
Definitely not as bad as Monster
I
Rap.
was just going to say the same thing. It's definitely a mess up.
Yeah.
They definitely mixed up the two holidays.
But it's not a major one.
No.
The Summoner doesn't really play into it as much as I would have liked.
Like, they said the hand was cold. I would like to have heard more about that. Like, why?
Yeah, and the fact that he thinks he sees it moving, and like it would have, and I know some of this is his mind playing tricks on him, but it would have been nice to see more about why the sudden change in the hand? Like, was it not as powerful now because it had been used and you needed to say more words to activate it? Like, what is the story with this summoner?
And is it going to stay cold now because it's been used twice?
No idea.
Right.
We don't know that it was really related to it or any sort of power drain in the first place.
Right, so it's a little bit of a elusive end.
Yeah, now, my theory I had coming into this, I mean, I did read this one as a kid. I mean, there's my signature again. But I didn't remember it.
No.
I really didn't. So, going into this, when they were saying, oh, we're twins, and the 2 amber necklaces, I sort of had this weird idea, especially since Gabe said he thought he felt it moving, that maybe it had something to do with the scarab itself. And it was gonna, like, travel between the necklaces and, like, sort of give power the other way. Because it talks so much about the necklaces and about how the amber was cloudy and not super clear, so it was a bit hard to see the scarab in the middle. And so I thought maybe this was gonna be a thing, and it was gonna, like, transfer power somehow to her by crawling to the other necklace. Something like that.
There was none of it.
But there was none of that.
No.
It was just her living immortally forever as a beetle. Which, you know, makes about as much sense as anything else.
Yep.
The weather was used really well in this one.
Yeah, I think, like, even in the first one,
Yeah.
the weather played a significant part in the plot changing from everything's fine to here comes the danger.
Yes. And in this one, a windstorm has come up just as they're going into the pyramid. And it's a really neat effect for that last scene. And I know I, like, didn't mention it specifically then, but as Omar and Ben are, you know, discussing feverishly what's going on and they're heading towards the pyramid, as Gabe and Sari inch closer to them, like, from behind, and they're trying to hear what they're saying, they can't pick out what they're saying because their voices are getting carried away and lost by the wind as it's whipping around, and, like, it's a really neat effect to, like, sort of add more to that, like, ominousness.
It was very well done.
It kind of makes me wish there were more in this series in a way that Monster Blood didn't.
Yeah. I also liked how they kept with the theme of Gabe getting lost or trapped somewhere in another room, and Sari was the one
to find him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a rinse and repeat thing, but it was a different scenario this time.
But it was done so differently that it was still neat. And it was also neat that Ben was knocked out again, and, like, it had Hallmark callbacks to the last one without doing the exact same thing the last one did.
Yeah.
And actually, that was something the first one did, was the way Sari kept finding Gabe. That was almost a little too repetitive in and of itself, because, I mean, she finds him 3 separate times, which is a bit much. Whereas in this one, she just finds him once after he's lost. And, like, that's enough,
and
really.
the chamber that he was in this time wasn't the main chamber of where everything was happening. It was just a little side quest that he did.
It was a side quest, for sure. There was definitely more security in this one.
Yeah.
There was more safety precautions taken in this one. I mean, definitely things were built upon from the last book. And, I mean, it's worth noting, too, that this is the first time out of the books we've read so far in the series that our protagonists are people of color.
Yeah.
In fact, pretty much the entire cast is, which is nice because it's taking place in Egypt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was really cool to see. And like I said, I'm a little sad there's not a third one.
Yeah. They should, R.L. Stine should have did more of the Mummy and less of Monster Blood. In hindsight.
I agree. In hindsight.
Yeah.
There should have been more Mummy and less Monster Blood. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And when they talk about his parents briefly in this one, there's no mention of his father's weight this time.
No.
That was good to see, too.
Yeah.
So, by all accounts, definitely a better book, which is interesting because usually we're seeing with the sequels that they're not as good. But this one definitely, like, built on things from the last one. It's definitely better.
Yep. So what do you guys think? Do you like it as much as the first one?
Yeah. Did you find any of the plot holes too much to get past, or were you like there for the ride?
Yes, and if we messed up anything that was significant like we did in the last one, point it out in the comments by all means.
Absolutely, especially since I was a little bit all over the place with the plot in this one.
Nah, you did fine.
Jennifer's better at following a straight line than I am. I'm good at tangenting.
Well, I also didn't read the TV one.
That
so,
messed me up.
Yeah.
But I did also read the TV adaptation. So if you want to learn with us all about how this one is different from the other one, which I've got straight in my head now, I promise, then like we said, stay tuned. Watch the second video. It's going to be out later this day.
Yeah.
Our next book for next time. We've got some big announcements when it comes to this one.
Yeah, we're going on a little bit of a tangent.
We are going to do Series 2000, The Mummy Walks. This one is going to be for March 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And this is significant because in March we're going to take a slight hiatus. We have some commitments that we know are coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've decided to do, if we can, is take some extra time to film some extra videos. And we didn't want to like completely halt the book club altogether because we're on a good roll here.
Absolutely.
So for March 15th, that will be the only video. The next video won't come out until April 15th.
Mm-hmm.
When it does, it will be Who's Your Mummy? It'll be Goosebumps Horrorland. So that's for April 15th.
Yeah.
And then April will have its usual one at the end of the month. And then for May, we're also only going to have one. But it probably won't be until the end of the month for May.
Right, due to also commitments.
Yes. But we're doing our best to work around them and try to make sure there's still content and it's still coming out as frequently as we can make it.
Absolutely.
So we're really excited. Please, please, please do join us for Goosebumps Series 2000. We have not read any of the Series 2000 ones yet.
No.
Like most things that say 2000 on them, this book was written in 1999.
I don't have this one in my collection, so I'm going to be checking Kobo and Google Books, Google Playbooks, to see if I can find it.
And also, check your local library. Who knows? They might have it. If they don't, they can oftentimes order books in if you let them know like in advance, which is why we're trying to let you know as far as we can ahead of time right now. Because if you do want to order books from your local library, if they don't happen to have it, this gives you the opportunity to do so for the next few coming up.
Right.
After we finish Who's Your Mummy on April 15th, we will be starting the Slappy series.
Now, we're not going to go into the Slappy series, the standalone series. We're going to do the ones in the original release of the 62 or 64 books. And then, is it one in Horrorland?
There's one, I believe, in Series 2000,
Okay.
and there's one in Horrorland.
Yeah.
There's more in between, but we're only going to do one from Series 2000 and the one from the beginning of Horrorland.
Right.
Because there are a lot of slappy centric books.
Right.
And eventually, after Horrorland, he gets a spin-off series, Slappy World. We're not going to go that far into it. It's too much.
We won't get into the series
Yeah.
as much as we want to if we go down the Slappy road.
But we will at least do those other two after we do the first three in the original run. And then we will do book 8 after that.
Yep. Alright, so Twitter handles. They can find you on Twitter, Ash.
Oh, you're doing it.
I'm going to do it this time.
Alright, go for it. Do it again.
Alright, so they can find you on Twitter, Mandy, on...
As a glitter macaroon with 1 T and 2 O's. And they can find you, Jennifer.
At coffee_with_Jen with 1 N.
And make sure if you are doing this on Twitter to hashtag everything with GBC Ghost Next Door so we can see it.
Yes.
If we do get enough viewer feedback and questions, there will eventually be a bonus episode that's centered around that. So yeah, use the hashtag. We do check it. We will answer you on Twitter.
We will.
And so be prepared for everything coming up because reader beware.
You're in for a scare.
There we go, that was much better.
Good job remembering the Twitter handles, because I didn't.
I was like, oh no.
No. Yeah, it's definitely a
You want to start that sentence
holidays.
again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, from the start.